Welcome to the Walnut Log Studio. My name is Jeff Hornan. This is part 2 of the series on polyester resin pen blank casting. As you may recall, at the end of part 1, we ended up with a block of clear resin. It had 2 pen tubes in it. If you don't remember, if you haven't seen that video, go down and click on something somewhere, find my channel, watch the first video, get up to speed, and then come back here. Anyway, I had a block of clear resin. It had 2 pen tubes in it, one of which was tied with a teal embroidery floss. The other one was feathers. The feather blank, as you may recall, had some bubbling issues at the end, and I decided that that's the pen that I want to try to turn and see if we can salvage something out of it, and I'll do that on video for you today. Step 1 is going over to the bandsaw, taking that clear block, cutting it in half, getting those 2 tubes freed, and then squaring up the ends just like any other pen kit. And speaking of pen kits, the kit that I'm using with my casting right now is the Manhattan. It happens to come from Rockler. We have a Rockler in St. Louis. It's easy for me to just run over there and get them. But it's the same type of pen as the Mesa, the Wall Street 2, the Sierra, and a couple of other different styles. It basically the same pen. The tubes are about the same, the bushings are about the same, and it gives you enough meat in your finished pen blank to cast items in the resin. So anyway, I'm gonna head over to the bandsaw, cut the block in half. You need to stick around because we're gonna have some fun. I've not seen any air bubbles that are going to cause me any issue right away. I was able to cut some of them off. I used a standard barrel trimmer to square up my ends. I'm going to do a walkthrough video on pen turning in a couple of weeks. So if you're, I'm assuming you're experienced as a pen turner and you have an idea what the basic process is. So we're not going to go over all of the fine details today. As far as my gouges, my hand tools, I'm using a Harbor Freight. They call this a roughing gouge. I'll put it down here on camera too. And I have it ground basically the same angle as my standard roughing gouge. It's a low quality tool, but it does a really fine job on pens. This is my go-to pen tool. I just like it. It does very well on wood pens. It does okay roughing out the plastic pens, but I usually switch to a mini round carbide tool, and that takes care of everything else that I need to do. Anyway, enough yapping. Let's start turning. I want to see what this blank looks like. And as we go, if I run into air bubbles, I'll talk you through what I'm doing, and that way, if this happens to you, you know how to handle it when you get there. Alright, let's scoot the tool rest in a little bit further. It's roughing out nicely, getting good shavings. One of the things that I like about plastic is you do get decent shavings if you're using a sharp tool. If you start getting what seems to be more like tear out or shattering in your blank, or really fine sand that you just got these little particles flying off your blank, touch up your tool. You're not sharp enough, touch up your tool. Plastics, especially since you're turning on a mandrel, you're turning between centers, get the speed up there. I'm running at about 2 grand, and that seems to work well for the various acrylics that I've turned. Alright, I need a little extra light. I am having trouble seeing what I'm doing here. I still have I've got a really deep hole, definitely okay, a bubble. See that? Right there. That's part of my bubble. I'm going to cut a little bit deeper and see if I can't turn past that without having to resort to CA. But that's where we had trouble in our casting, right there. That it bubbled up and it opened up and there wasn't anything I could do about it when it was still in the mold. It's just one of those deals, you know, there's a limit to what you can do. So let's see if we can turn past it. Tool rest is a touch high. Just let the material come to the tool. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. Come back, pick up your cut. One of the big downsides to plastics in general is these shavings just wrap around everything and make it hard to see. So if you need to turn off your lathe and clean them out of your way so that you can see what you're doing, do it as much as you need to. Alright, since this technically is a roughing gouge, I can use it point on, edge on, just like a standard roughing gouge. It'll give me a smaller cutting surface, and I don't know if you could see that, but I was getting really fine shavings just by doing that. Again, light touches. Take your time. Plastics take a little bit longer. Not quite there yet. Alright, let's see what we got. There's a little hole right there still. That was the bubble that popped up right at the end of the cast, right in the middle of the tube. And I think I'm going to have to put some CA in there, but my ends look good. No, I don't want to go any thinner because there's another bubble there. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a bubble right there, right under the surface. Alright, so let's go ahead and try to fill this up just a touch, and maybe I will try and poke into that remaining bubble there. See if I can fill it in. Thin CA, a little accelerator, and a dental pick. My mother-in-law got me a set of dental picks, and I don't think she was implying anything by it. It was just she needed a Christmas gift for me, and it turned out that they come in really handy out here in the shop. It was a set of dental picks and various sizes of tweezers, which is kind of cool. Like I said, I use them often. They're good for stuff like this. Basically, what I just did, and I'll go back to the other camera, what I just did was the hole is right there. And because I'm turning, it was getting some white buildup. There was some dust in there. Couldn't blow it out, so using the dental pick, I just kind of lifted it out. Anyway, I'm going to come over here and see if I can poke. Oh, I did. I just poked right into that cavity. Let's see if we can't fill that sucker. It might leave a flaw. It might leave a flaw, but it also might fill. Anyway, thin CA. Just a drop. All right, make sure the tip of your tool is clean, and just kind of see if you can't encourage that to fill. But look at how pretty those feathers are. This pen, if we pull it off, is going to be gorgeous. All right, got a little pump bottle of accelerator, which is virtually empty, but just enough to do the trick. And then we will come back over here. Oh, now I gotta find it. I don't know where the other spot went to. Okay, I'm gonna sand. Let's get this thing done. Okay, that's going to be really pretty. There's that little flaw just below the surface where we filled the hole, but I can't feel anything. And I can put the pen clip over that. Nobody will ever know. Okay, you'll know. Don't tell anybody. All right, that looks really nice. Okay, we're going to call that done. We're going to call that a successful feather blank. I have worked through the bubbles. Still need to figure out why it's doing that and how to avoid it, but I am pleased. I am very pleased with what we have here. All right, time for the dismount and the assembly and the wrap-up. I will be back in a few minutes. Okay, the pen is assembled. It looks great. I will post a good photograph at the end of the video so that you can see it up close, but here it is. The pen worked, the blank held together. We took care of the bubble issues. The bubble issues weren't as bad as I was expecting, but they were able to be dealt with in the manner that I had hoped for, with just using some CA. The one slightly discolored spot where we filled in the bubble, I have covered with a pen clip, so unless you're actually looking for the spot you really can't see it. So all in all, I'm pleased. Anyway, I guess that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you learned a couple of things. I hope you enjoyed this particular process, this project. Maybe one of these days I will show you how I made the blank. I tie flies for fly fishing, and the techniques are very similar to that. The wrapping of the thread in order to secure the feathers. The trick is you don't wrap the thread on the tubes. That's where the wooden ends that you saw in the first video, when the blank was already in the mold, that's where those came into play and why I needed them. Anyway, I'll probably do another video on that in the future as well. But again, thanks for stopping by. This has been the Walnut Log Studio. I'll see you around. Take care.